Let's get the very latest now from NBC's Raf Sanchez in Tel Aviv and Gabe Gutierrez at the White House for us. Raf, what more can you tell us about the killing of this Hamas leader?
So, Anna, in the days after the October 7th terror attack, Israel said it would hunt down all of Hamas's top leaders. And early this morning, around 1:45 a.m., 299 days into this war, it appears that Israel has taken a major name off that list, apparently tracking down and killing Hamas's political chief during a visit to Tehran.
This morning, the war in the Middle East spreading as a top Hamas leader assassinated inside Iran. Ismail Haniyeh killed just hours after meeting with Iran's supreme leader, another avowed enemy of Israel. Both Hamas and Iran blaming Israel for the killing and vowing revenge. The Israeli government refusing to comment. Iran's Revolutionary Guard saying Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the Hamas political bureau, and one of his guards were killed in an attack on their residence in Tehran. Iranian media saying it was a missile strike. The war started by Hamas's attack on October 7th, also spilling into Lebanon, where Israel says it took out a senior commander in Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed militant group, who was responsible for killing 12 children in a rocket attack on a soccer field over the weekend. But Lebanon's health ministry says 2 children were also killed in the Israeli strike. Now, after the attack in Iran, Hamas reeling from its leader's death. The 61-year-old Haniyeh was more a politician than a fighter. He left Gaza 5 years ago and lived comfortably abroad while his people suffered, traveling the world rallying support for Hamas. On October 7th, he celebrated the terror attack. And while the IDF says the real mastermind, Yahya Sinwar, is still hiding in Gaza, Israel vowed it would one day take revenge on Hamas's most public face.
Now, we spoke a short while ago to Daniel Lifshitz. His 84-year-old grandfather, Oded, has been held in Gaza for 299 days now. He tells us he is the only great-grandfather held hostage anywhere on the planet, and he says he is deeply worried that this killing could derail those ceasefire negotiations. He's looking to the United States, he's looking to Qatar to try to keep those talks on track, but we have already heard from the Prime Minister of Qatar earlier on today. He's the main mediator in these negotiations, and he's asking, frankly, how can he be expected to mediate when one side of the negotiating table is killing the other? So expect in the coming hours, in the coming days, a major diplomatic effort from the United States to try to keep these ceasefire negotiations on track.
Well, let's go to Gabe at the White House. What's the word there from this administration, Gabe?
Well, hi there, Anna. Good morning. Well, no official response from the White House just yet, but as you just heard Raf reference, the Biden administration will try and push to keep this ceasefire deal alive. And just a short time ago, Secretary of State Antony Blinken told an interviewer in Asia that the U.S. was not involved in this assassination, nor did it get a heads up. Now, Blinken's in Singapore, where reporters just asked him for his reaction on this. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We've been working from day one not only to try to get to a better place in Gaza, but also to prevent the conflict from spreading. And a big key to trying to make sure that that doesn't happen and that we can move to a better place is getting the ceasefire.
Now, given the events today, of course, Anna, the likelihood of a ceasefire deal in the near future, at least at this point, seems very unlikely. But this all comes just a day or so after the IDF targeted that Hezbollah commander in Lebanon. The U.S. and a senior White House official telling me that that commander had American blood on his hands for a Beirut bombing back in 1983 that killed scores of American service members. Still, the Biden administration is still maintaining that fears of a wider war have been exaggerated as the White House and the Biden administration try to push for a diplomatic solution to this, really behind the scenes, and still tries to stress that the administration's commitment to Israel is ironclad, Anna.
Raf Sanchez and Gabe Gutierrez, thank you both. And for more on this, I want to bring in former CIA Director John Brennan. Director Brennan, good to have you here. Haniyeh was the top political leader for Hamas. Israel's had him on their list of targets since the October 7th attack. So just how significant is this loss for Hamas? And what does it signal to you about where Israel's war effort stands now?
Well, Anna, as you mentioned, Ismail Haniyeh was head of the political office, which was located in Doha. And therefore, his killing is not going to affect Hamas's capabilities inside of Gaza. He was not in the command and control structure as far as military and terrorist operations there, although he was part of the very most senior Hamas leadership. And what it indicates to me is that Israel is going to continue to aggressively target the Hamas leaders, almost irrespective of where they might be. And I believe it is a setback to the ceasefire negotiations that did seem to hold promise in the last few days. I know it's hard to use the terms pragmatic and moderate when it comes to Hamas, but certainly Haniyeh was one of the less extremist leaders within the organization. As pointed out, he's mostly a politician, former academician, dean of Islamic University in Gaza, but he is part of that Hamas leadership infrastructure. And I think the strike against him, certainly in Tehran, it's an embarrassment to Iran as well, unable to provide security to somebody like that who had just met with the supreme leader previously.
And of course, Hamas is an Iranian proxy group of sorts. Iran's supreme leader is already promising to avenge Haniyeh's death. What kind of reaction might you expect from Hamas and from Iran?
Well, I think Israel has demonstrated that it has very strong capabilities and precision capability to attack its targets, whether it be in the outskirts of Beirut or in Tehran. And so the responses so far from Hezbollah and from Iran have been either through proxies or direct strikes against Israel proper. At some point, I worry that there may be some asymmetric attacks, that the Iranians and Hezbollah may seek to take strikes against Israel outside of Israel proper. And we know that there's been a many decades track record of terrorist attacks that have been sponsored by Iran and Hezbollah in many areas of the world. Hezbollah does have a global infrastructure, and so Israeli and Jewish targets, in fact, couldn't be the target of some type of Iranian or Hezbollah response to these most recent attacks.
As we've discussed, Qatar is already suggesting the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations essentially stop now because they're saying, how can we negotiate without a negotiator? Director, how do you answer that question? What is the path forward when it comes to a hostage deal?
It's a good question because Haniyeh has been really the principal point of the negotiations, interacting with the Hamas leadership in Gaza Strip, but also interacting with the various parties that have been participating in these negotiations. And so therefore, the Qataris, the Turks, the Egyptians, and others have been dealing with Haniyeh. You take him away, I think it's going to be very disruptive to the ceasefire talks, but also the hostage release. I think it demonstrates that, this attack right now against Haniyeh in Tehran, it really does reflect the hard right-wing part of the Israeli war cabinet that is most interested in trying to remove not just Hamas's capabilities inside of Gaza, but also its leadership. And they seem to be less interested in pursuing viable options for a ceasefire and a near-term hostage release. So it is a very worrisome development, and I think it has been a setback to the diplomatic efforts that have been underway over the last several weeks that have been spearheaded principally by the United States.
Former CIA Director John Brennan, I really appreciate your expertise. Thank you for offering that analysis for us.